Have an iTube. It's Abla, and today I wanted to talk about why you should not move to Africa. I have my notes again to keep me organized so I don't go off on a tangent. This is why you should definitely not move to Africa. For the diaspora, this also goes out to the diaspora, the African diaspora, and also to expats returning to a place that's not their native country. Also to the diaspora, the African diaspora. And I was actually born in West Africa, so I'm West African. And I had grown up in the US and now I'm back on the continent. But yeah, you should definitely not move to Africa. Why? So, first of all, in the first place, like to preface this whole thing, we're not meant to develop the earth in the first place. You can watch my video, Why It's a Sin to Live in the World. We're not meant to develop the earth at all. It's not meant to have the world that we put on earth. We're given the earth and we manufacture, industrialize it to create the world. Our cities, our sidewalks, our businesses, our capitalism, all those things we've manufactured. So the earth was not meant for us to develop. It was meant for us to inhabit, not to develop and industrialize. So that's the preface of the whole video that everyone needs to understand. We are not meant to develop the earth, first and foremost. So now we can look at, it's already been done. So now we can look at Kitty. We can look at Africa, so-called Africa, the continent. And we see that the entire world pillages Africa for its resources. It's a sort of Eden of sorts. The continent is like an Eden of sorts, and it's being pillaged of its resources, yet it is still abundant. So Africa, the continent, is our Eden, and it's full of abundance pretty much, and resources. That's why all of these foreign countries and governments, foreign entities are interested in the continent. So we have Africa as sort of like an Eden on the earth, an Eden in the world, right? And so when the diaspora or expats move to Africa, they unknowingly are bringing their programming from the world with them. So we have this Eden, and in Africa, most places that I've been to East, West, South Africa. Have not been to North Africa, but from what I've seen, what I know, you have, in most countries, you have these cities that are very populated, overpopulated. Some of them aren't even overpopulated or very populated. But the cities is where the development and the industrialization is at. And then outside of the cities is just it's the continent. It's just villages, so to speak, and people living their natural ancestral way that they know. So we have the cities, and most of the continent is not actually these cities. That's not the real continent. The real continent is outside of these cities. But these cities are where a lot of the population is, and it makes it look like the development is, where do I want to use? Development is acceptable in a way. It's not acceptable. What is normal and natural in these countries on the continent is what you see outside the cities. The cities is the world. Like, that's the development. That's the illusion that they need to uphold. And then outside, that's reality. So when you're outside the limits, say for the country I was born in, so to speak, outside of the city is when you see reality. In the city, you can see pizza and french fries and large buildings and paved roads and things of the sort, things like that, which is not reality. So once you're outside of the development is when you see reality. Now, the issue is that when the diaspora returns, say you're from the US or UK, anywhere so-called first world countries, you're not aware that the cities, the roads, the buildings, the restaurants, you're not aware that that's actually an illusion. You think that's reality when that's not reality. And you think that the villages and the naturality you see on the continent is just undeveloped, undeveloped areas, when that's reality. So when the diaspora expats move to Africa, they bring along that programming that there needs to be development. They bring along that programming that they learn from the country they're coming from, and they basically are polluting the continent with these ideals of development. When in reality, Africa doesn't need to develop, it needs to undevelop from those cities that I'm speaking of, that illusion, those little pieces of illusions that are so powerful. But those little pieces of illusions and delusions and mirages that exist on the continent, those actually need to be completely dissolved. But unfortunately, coming from places like US and the UK, we bring that with us unknowingly. It's almost like unconscious, like the programming of capitalism, pretty much. So, just organize myself that persons that return or persons that are expats, they bring exactly what they're running from onto the continent. Pretty much, it's the programming. Persons don't really deprogram themselves before coming onto the continent, so they're doing. They're doing I don't want to use that word. I don't normally want to use the word devil, but they're doing the devil's work for him, pretty much, by bringing on these programs that they receive from the world onto the continent. You know, for example, economy and capitalism, pretty much. Let's use myself for an example. I grew up in the U.S. It was just my nuclear family that was in the U.S. So the entire rest of my family was in West Africa. I could have returned to West Africa with my schooling, all the education I learned, my English, all of that, my U.S. dollars, and developed the country that I was born in, and it would have been very well received. I would have even known government officials, things like that. I would have been very well received and been able to start business, build a home, things of the sorts. We see many expats returning to Ghana or different places, building their own home on their own land, starting their own businesses, basically living the way they wish they could have lived in the places like the US or the UK, wherever you're coming from. So basically, persons take the programming from the world, bring it to the continent, and then they even bring disadvantage to the persons that are already living on the continent because they're perpetuating the world that they came from. They're bringing it over. So you're running from lack of opportunity, some type of oppression you believe you're experiencing in the world, and then you go and perpetuate that on the continent. Because when you come and you bring development, you basically become an elite on the continent. I would have became some type of elite, high class in the country I was born in. If I would have came with my English and my education and my US dollars, all those things, I would become an elite. But in the US, it wasn't that simple for me. It wouldn't have been that simple for me to become so-called elite in the US and to build my own home on my own land, own business that is prosperous. It wouldn't have been that easy, that simple. So I run from one thing in the US. Persons run from one thing, bring it to the continent, become what they wanted, because they're in some way jealous, envious of those who are able to attain those things, able to attain the wealth in the US that they make you believe you need, the American dream. they're somehow envious, and they're actually yearning for that when they move to the continent. Not really yearning to return to your African roots, so to speak. You're yearning for the American dream. You're yearning for what the white man programmed you to want. Yearning for your business and money and what they made you believe freedom is. So when you move on to the continent and you bring development, you build homes, you build businesses, things like that, you're not trying to return to Africa. You're trying to be the white man. Really, you're trying to be the white man, but he's not letting you get to his position. So you just move away onto Africa, where you believe that you can achieve that. And many people are achieving that elite status and achieving all these financial goals they might have had in the US, UK, those Europe areas, in Africa. And then the people who are already living in Africa are not really benefiting from this. Like I said, the city is the illusion, and then outside is really reality with the villages and more rural living. Persons in the cities may be able to work at these new businesses and things, but again, nobody needs to have a job. I don't need to be anyone's master because I was brought over to the U.S. and I would come back and be your master and give you a time to clock in and clock out, my native brother and sister, and pay you $5, probably something that translates to $5 an hour, so to speak. That's not right. You don't want to return to Africa. You're envious, you're jealous of the white man, so to speak. I'm using that as a term. I'm sure everyone will understand that, but you're envious of the world's, the elite. You want to be like that. You don't want to return to Africa, because if you truly want to return to Africa, you will dissolve all that programming, and you will not want to have a business or acquire money and things of that sort. Things of the sort. So that's a big reason why expats and the diaspora, we are polluting the continent with this programming that we unconsciously bring over. It's a programming of capitalism and the programming that we need things, we need the world, and we need to perpetuate the world, and the world is reality when the world is not reality. And if you knew that, you would come to Africa and see that it's just a little bit of delusion in the cities, in the very populated towns, and then the rural living is a reality. And you would see that, okay, if I want to return to Africa, what that means is that I want to return to the more rural, natural living. It doesn't mean that I want to come live in the city and build $1 million mansion and start a business to make money off of other African people or persons abroad. That's not what Africa needs. You should not move to Africa if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want for yourself. Definitely not. So what we need to do, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the diaspora and expats are the ones polluting Africa, because obviously in the beginning I said that foreign powers, foreign entities are already interested in the continent. They're already interested, and they are already using resources and have power. They hold power. Not true power, but in some way they have acquired some power and some leverage on the continent. So what we actually need to do is remove all foreign entities, all foreign ideas, all foreign ideals, all programming that is not within the programming of the highest I. Anything of the world needs to be removed from the continent. Anything of the world needs to be removed from the continent. And no one that wants to perpetuate the world needs to come onto the continent. There's no need. There's no need to build more mansions. There's no need for that. Even more just like homes. There's no need for more infrastructure. The continent does not need a single piece of infrastructure. Point blank, period. The continent does not need a single piece of infrastructure. No homes, no roads, no hospitals, no schools, none of that. None of that. It is not needed. None of that development is needed on the continent. All foreign entities, ideals need to go from the continent, and none of it needs to be brought over either from black, so-called black people especially. We're really perpetuating the world, and like I said before, I don't want to use this word, but doing the devil's work by bringing over this programming, because we're so confused. We don't even know we've been programmed. We don't even know that. We just think that we are pursuing, it's a pursuit of happiness, so to speak. Another American ideal that is taught, the American dream, the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, whatever they spew out. It is that is ingrained in our minds, which is making persons return to their ancestral land, the continent, which is the ancestral home for so-called black people. Making persons return in the wrong way. We're returning, but it's not a true return. To truly return, you have to return to the roots and return to naturality. You have to return to the truth. You don't go from living in the world in the U.S. to living in the world in the continent. What's the difference? All you've done is elevated your social position. So it shows that all you really wanted to do is elevate your social, financial position. And you're using, basically stripping, raping this land to do it. You don't want to return to your roots. You just wanna be more elite, pretty much. And you use the unfortunate fact that there is a diaspora in the first place. Unfortunately, we are displaced. You use that unfortunate fact as an advantage to come to Africa and bring development, industrialization, business, hospitals, medicine, all these worldly things, and basically further pollute the continent. When I said already, there's foreign entities here that we need to get rid of. We don't need to perpetuate that. And the key to that is knowing that we have been programmed and accepting that and being willing to dissolve that. If you watch this and you are completely offended, that's a sign that you need to dissolve the programming in your mind, the programming that has been put into your mind, because you should not be offended by this. It is not saddening that Africa is underdeveloped, so to speak, because what did I say? We don't need to develop the earth. It's not necessary. It's in fact a sin. It's in fact a sin to be developing the earth and creating the world. To slap in the high side's face, to want to develop Eden. Why would you develop, industrialize, build roads in the Garden of Eden? What sense does that? Is it not good enough for you? So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you want to move to Africa, ask yourself why. What are you after? What are you looking for? Are you running away from something? If you're running away from something, you got to make sure you don't bring it with you, you know? When you're running away from something, you have to make sure you don't pack it up and bring it with you, as most people do. You have to be very aware of yourself and what programs you have, and know that Africa is not in need of development, industrialization, anything like that. We actually need persons to come and help dissolve that and bring forth a way of life that does not perpetuate any systems, perpetuate the world. We need to just return to the truth, return to natural living. And you see bits and pieces of that, like I said. You see that in the rural areas and the villages, so to speak. You see that, and it's possible. So yes, if you want to move to Africa, come with a pure heart, come with good intentions, and know why you're coming. So yes. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I hope this is understood. Hope it reaches who it needs to reach. But yes, thank you. God,